Welcome to the world of indie. You see, after the hard stock market crash, AAA games have mainly just went under the radar, only being remembered because everyone emulates them. Meanwhile, indie gaming has topped the charts. Well, outside of Minecraft never dies. I mean, that was an indie game in its early years, wasn't it? What's better? Well, indie apps, indie browsers, video sharing sites, and more. They aren't as toxic as those other social medias we boycotted years ago. There's also indie systems, computers, consoles, and smartphones, all capable of playing whatever indie game and app you want. Oh yeah, emulation is entirely legal now. You've also got indie movies topping the charts in cinemas, which are also indie. The appliances are indie, these houses are indie, this school is indie, this hospital is indie, this chair is indie. And all of this didn't even cost me my legs. The best part? No generative AI. Let's meet up with the indie leader. Yep, there are indie nations now. We didn't want another dictatorship now, don't we? Yeah, not all indie is good. In this indie nation, you get arrested if you try to establish a company with more than 5 people. Okay, maybe indie nations won't be that strict. Anyways, with that clip out of the way, which was originally going to be a short, let's talk about video games. Quick disclaimer, this video is not meant to hate on anyone or anything. It's just meant to analyze what's going on with gaming this year and maybe show my thoughts, feelings, and speculations about these events. The current state of gaming in 2025 is quite a mixed bag. Right now, that mixed bag contains Switch 2, GTA 6, Deltarune, and Silksong. None of which I actually played, and one of these things isn't out yet, so who am I to judge? But I don't know, maybe I could play one of these games eventually. A lot of people are excited about this year of gaming, but a lot of people are also angry, the Switch 2 being the biggest reason. I don't think I've seen that much mixed opinions over a console in a while. When it was first announced, people were quite hyped that a new Nintendo console was coming out, but some were questioning it being called the Switch 2. People were also thinking that it would follow the same success-failure pattern that the Nintendo consoles typically have. But once we got new information about the Switch 2, people weren't too excited about it. Not only were some of the specs and features already leaked online weeks prior, but the price of the console was a whopping $450. The way I see things, Nintendo is trying to advertise the Switch 2 as a deluxe version of the Switch, as they claim that the original Switch will still be available years after the Switch 2 releases. They don't seem to be forcing anyone to switch to Switch 2, no pun intended. After a while, the price of the console wasn't people's biggest issue. It was the price of the games. The Switch 2 had the most expensive video games on the market, selling for around $80. Notice how I said had? That's because the other two gaming giants later claimed that their games will cost $80 in the future, which pinned the blame on Nintendo even more. Some people think that GTA 6 is going to cost $100 due to it being the most expensive to make video game, but no confirmations have been made yet, so that remains a prediction. I think if gaming companies were to slowly raise the prices of future games rather than upping the price drastically, that would have avoided some of the controversy. I've seen people compare AAA game prices now to AAA game prices then, and the older games were more expensive. But that was before gaming was a more accessible hobby that anyone can get into. Besides, it's not just games that are too expensive, it's everything. As some people on the internet say, the prices of everything is inflated except our paychecks. Also, older games could get away with it in a time without DLC or microtransactions. In recent years, almost every AAA game has some form of DLC or microtransaction and are still full price. Nintendo is seen as the more affordable alternative during the Wii and Wii U era in contrast to the next-gen Xbox and PlayStation. Remember when people complained about the PS3's jaw-dropping $600 price tag? Some things never change. But now the Switch 2's games are mostly the same price as the other two rivals, destroying its consumer-friendly reputation. Another thing people really hate about the Switch 2 are the game key cards. These game key cards are meant for games that are too big to fit on one cartridge. These games just automatically download the game when you insert the game card. Unfortunately, that means if these games are no longer available for download, which will happen when the Switch eShop closes down, these game key cards will be worthless. It may prevent scalpers, but it also unfortunately prevents preservation. But what some people don't know is that it's not just Nintendo doing this locking physical games behind a download thing. Numerous games on other consoles do the same thing, but with discs instead of cartridges. Sometimes games just use download codes, which are basically the same thing except you have to type in the code manually rather than the game downloading as soon as you insert the card. Switch 2 cartridges can hold up to 64 gigabytes of space. Games over that amount have to be game key cards, but some games that aren't game key cards might be less than that amount. From what I heard from some sources, it's cheaper to put games on game key cards than it is to put the whole game on the game card itself. And according to this post, Nintendo might not be having many options for game card sizes for Switch 2 compared to Switch 1. So some developers with large games that would be fit for something like 7 gigabytes would either have to pay up for a 64 gigabyte game card or resort to game key cards to save on costs, since there are so little options for game card sizes. Let's talk about Switch 2 edition games. Some older Switch games have Switch 2 upgrades, some of which cost money. Some include brand new DLC, while some are just minor graphical improvements. And you don't need to worry about the graphical upgrades costing money. Most of those will be free. So now you can play Pokemon Scarlet and Violet mostly lag-free. And as for Switch 2 edition games not working for Switch 1, don't worry, they do work, just without the Switch 2 upgrade. Want to know something else people hate about the Switch 2? The Welcome Tour. It costs $10, which doesn't sound too much compared to the $80 AAA titles until you realize this is a tech demo. Wii Sports was also a tech demo for the Wii, but that game was bundled with every Wii at launch everywhere except Japan, so that flies by easily. The Switch 2 does not include the Welcome Tour as a bundled title, which I will say is really dumb. Here's something that I recently found out. The Switch 2 is bricked! At least it was until release day. A few people somehow got their hands on the Switch 2 days before it came out, but no apps can be used until the day 1 patch is installed. Now, this is an effective strategy by Nintendo to prevent anyone from leaking their console and games. And looking at everything leakers have done throughout these past few years, yeah, I can see why Nintendo locked their consoles before launch. But it still worries me and a bunch of other people that Nintendo can deem your console unplayable if you use it incorrectly, like modding your system. I don't think I've heard of any Switch system getting bricked by Nintendo themselves, just online bans for using flashcards and mods. But I could be wrong, there could be some hard bricked systems out there. I also have to mention, both Sony and Microsoft also claim they have the right to brick your consoles if you mod them. It's also not a new concept. Every Nintendo console since the Wii has guidelines that warn you that modifying your console may render it unusable. This warning might have to do with Japan's strict copyright laws, and it seems like every other Japanese company seems to like making lawsuits about the tiniest copies. But this is all speculation. After all, I'm not a lawyer. Let's talk about something actually good. Indie games. Deltarune's new chapters and Hollow Knight Silksong released a while ago, and everyone's playing and loving those games. Toby Fox, the creator of Deltarune, also works on some other popular games, like Pokemon. Minecraft was once an indie title as well, until it was bought by Microsoft after it left beta. But even if games like that aren't classified as indie anymore, there are many other games made by one or a small group of people that have gotten massive attention and have even been ported to other consoles at affordable prices. They don't pierce the sales of the best-selling AAA games yet, but their reputations more than make up for it. The best-selling game made by individuals is called The Oregon Trail, released in 1971, which was made by 3 people. But you might not classify it as an indie game. Most old video games were made by a small group of people, since video gaming was still in its infancy during the 70s and 80s, and video game companies weren't well established at the time. So if you don't count that, Terraria is the best-selling modern indie game. Indie content isn't all video games, it also branches to video and animation as well. That includes stuff like Digital Circus and Murder Drones, both made by Glitch Productions. But this is a video analyzing gaming, not animation. Hardware made by individuals are also becoming a little more common. If you search up indie game consoles on Google, you will find the Playdate as the top result. AAA gaming might still be on top, but indie is not far behind, and corporations know that, with Nintendo hosting mini-directs like the Indie World Showcase solely for games like those. But like I mentioned in the short, indie isn't always good. I think there was one indie developer that had a good reputation initially, but then started making a ton of shovelware games that ruined their reputation. But outside of that, it's a very good bag with a minuscule amount of bad eggs. Going back to AAA gaming, precisely the Switch 2, people are still excited about it, even with all the hate across the internet. When pre-orders came out for Switch 2, they sold out almost immediately. Even with tariffs inflating the prices of everything even more, Nintendo didn't want to lose more sales, so they didn't raise the prices of their console and games. They raised the prices of their accessories, and later on, the Switch 1 family of systems. And when it comes to the AAA games themselves, it's not all doom and gloom. I mean, look at all these games we're getting. They've been really wanted for a long time. And outside of the fear that prices are going to be high, people are still excited for when these games come out in the distant future. Now that the September Nintendo Direct has passed, new games with new controversies have came up. DLCs coming out before games have time to breathe at a higher price, re-releasing games at a higher price, and selling other accessories at a higher price. Notice how all of these controversies have to do with the price? These games' prices with DLC are around $90, which is not a very good price for games. Legends EA has a lot more controversies too, but I mainly mentioned them in a short I made. But even then, I'm pretty excited about these new games, and that's the thing. Even though Nintendo and other companies are doing some very corporate anti-consumer practices, their games are still extremely fun to most people. They're just too fun to put down for some people, but there are a few that have successfully put down Nintendo along with other game consoles and moved to PC gaming, the definitive experience. I think I can speak for most of the Nintendo fans here, hating Nintendo as a company, but loving their games. Anyways, this concludes my analysis on the state of gaming in 2025. I could make more videos relating to this, as my goal is to try and find explanations on why some of these things are happening. The reason this video took so long is because I was under a lot of time crunch working on an object show, and because of that, new controversies that have opened up, like Roblox being sued. But now that I finished that show, I can finally make videos again. See you in the next video.